speaking with senior Wyoming economist Jim Robinson. Jim, the latest edition of Wyoming Insights came out last week. First of all, for those not familiar with Wyoming Insights, what is that?
Well, you know, what it is it's a monthly report that I put together that tracks a number of different indicators for the state of Wyoming. Some of them are more related to energy. Others kind of take a look at the what you consider to be business indicators.
Now, looking at the report, which I don't have in front of me, but I did scan over it yesterday, it looked like some of the big news, natural gas prices are up, oil prices are down. Is that accurate?
You know, that is where we are right now in the energy market for Wyoming. Opal natural gas shot up quite a bit in November, almost about $4.25 per MCF. And for crude oil, we had peaked, this is the West Texas Intermediate price, around $70 a barrel back in September and October, and prices in November went down to about $59 a barrel.
Now, some of the other media reports I've been seeing, and correct me if I'm right or wrong on this, but some of the other reports are indicating, though, that as long as this doesn't become a long-term thing, as far as the lower oil prices, people don't think it's a huge deal for our state. Is that accurate?
You know, I think so. And one thing to keep in mind, especially when you're talking about energy prices and especially oil and gas prices, is that they can be fairly volatile. And, you know, we're in the winter season where, you know, if we start to see sustained cold air, different parts of the country, especially where we have major cities, that can really impact what happens, especially with natural gas prices. And that's kind of the story right now. But, you know, there's a lot of volatility out there that can occur, and we kind of, you know, take that for granted when we see prices don't change for very much for a couple of months. Then all of a sudden we start to see some changes like we're seeing right now.
Natural gas prices, even if it's temporary, though, good news for state revenues because that's where we get some of our money from, correct?
Yeah, and that's where that sustainable part of the story becomes important, because if we just see prices spike just for 1 month, that doesn't really mean very much for the state revenue situation. But if you can get prices that not only increase but stay there, say 6 months to a year, then that makes a big difference.
But the problem is, if I'm understanding this correctly, we don't think these natural gas prices, these higher prices, are going to be long-term. Am I right?
Well, you know, we really don't know. You know, what's driving that situation right now is that the market, I think, was more or less kind of caught unawares here maybe a month, 2 months ago with fairly low storage levels. And then all of a sudden we started to see some really cold weather show up in the Midwest and New England area. And so those two factors combined really started to drive up prices fairly quickly.
And, of course, we don't know what the weather's going to do, so that's nothing we can count on.
That's right. And, you know, when you start talking about oil prices, you know, there's a lot of variables there that have to do outside the United States that, of course, Wyoming has nothing to do with either.
Now, looking at the report as a whole, what were some of the other highlights?
Well, I think the other thing that stood out for me was that we're still seeing sales and use tax collections recover from last year, and it's most counties are showing improvement over last year, and we're to the point now where we're looking at smaller and smaller improvements because we're just kind of I think we're starting to kind of reach an equilibrium in the state. And also the sectors, for the most part, other than construction, they're showing year-over-year gains as well. So, you know, that recovery has been slow for the state, and it continues. And it looks like we're kind of reaching more or less the peak in that recovery.
So you think that recovery maybe is about plateaued for now?
It is, you know, and I think a couple things are driving that, and that is, you know, of course, oil and gas activity in terms of rig counts. They have been somewhat stable for the last 6 months. And then the oil and gas jobs, those go kind of hand in hand with the rig counts. Those numbers have been somewhat stable as well. So there's really nothing else out there that would be driving the economy in Wyoming to start increasing again.
So I guess over the next few weeks we'll have to keep an eye on the oil industry, and we really don't know what's going to happen with that, right?
No, we don't. You know, the oil and gas industry, those two industries in particular, you know, are very important to Wyoming. And, of course, you know, natural gas prices are certainly looking a lot better. You talk about crude oil prices there, and, you know, that's a little bit different situation. There's a lot more uncertainty, I think, with crude oil prices right now.
Jim, anything else in the report that's worth discussing here this morning?
I don't think so, Doug.
Okay, I appreciate the call back.
You bet. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.